Everyone, today we're going to do a Mocha Mousse makeup look, starting from the base. When you have to cleanse a client's skin and start over, sometimes their cheeks might become flaky or patchy. So you need to check for dead skin cells or the condition of their skin first. And it's important to choose the right basic skincare product. But you know those dead skin cells that you can't remove with tweezers? Those are the ones you really shouldn't exfoliate at all. That's actually damaged skin. But clients usually don't know that. They don't realize it's damaged. There are a lot of cases of dermatitis. When you're busy, I recommend applying the base skincare with a sponge. You can have 1 or 2 sponges on hand. You'll use them to wipe with toner, but say someone comes in wearing cushion foundation and it's caking up. In that case, I don't wipe it off with this. I'll show you as I go along. Surprisingly, there are a lot of areas where the makeup gets pushed around. Even here, it happens more than you think. You need to wipe it off once. I usually try not to irritate the face too much with these toner pads. Then some people say, but if you don't wipe properly with this, won't it smear? If it's the eyes that need to be cleaned, I just hand it to them and tell them to do it themselves. That's the most accurate way. Because what happens if someone comes in wearing contact lenses and oil gets into their eye? It gets cloudy. Then the client thinks, this moment is traumatizing for me. So when it comes to removing eye makeup, I hand it directly to them. And if there's a lot of dead skin, I use lotion and a sponge to gently rub it off. That way, you can wipe it off without irritation. Because lotion itself is oily. But if the skin is dry or something like that, I soak the sponge with ampoule and gently pat it off. And for the outer areas, I sweep it on naturally. That way, the outer areas get a thin layer, so it absorbs quickly and there's no risk of it rubbing off. When applying skincare, don't squeeze out too much water. Just squeeze it out once or twice so there's still some moisture left. That way, it's more comfortable for applying skincare. If the sponge is cool, it feels even more soothing. And if you're using a sponge to pat on foundation, then you need to squeeze it out thoroughly before using it. I'll put on some lip balm now. Just rub your lips together. When applying lip balm, I tell people to rub their lips together. If left sitting, it goes on unevenly. Then it feels sticky and uncomfortable here. But people can't really say anything about it. You know, people, do you rub your lips together after applying it? They end up rubbing their lips together. It feels comfortable. After I put it on, I secretly rub my lips together. That just means it's uncomfortable. That's what it is. Even though a full makeup session gives you more time, it's still better if you finish a bit quickly. Otherwise, people lose focus toward the end. The client doesn't even know what you're saying, and they start to feel tired. So if you use lavender incorrectly, it can make you look way too pale. And it also makes your skin look matte. That's why you should use something with a slightly nude tone or a bit of oiliness. Like a sunscreen, for example. I'm going to mix a little bit of that in because there's a lot of oiliness. It's oily skin. With this kind of skin, if you touch the nose or areas like that and feel little bumps or sebum, putting on a thick base will immediately make your face look cakey. You know what I mean, right? And the most important thing, as I mentioned before, the first tone. There are people whose faces are darker than mine, but they like to make their skin look really white. At that point, it's good to decide whether to go with a pink tone or a yellow tone. As for the shade, you need to test it out a bit, but you do need to talk about it. So, does your skin tend to darken quickly during the day? They say their skin does darken. You have to mention that it's true that the customer wants a brighter look, but if you make it too bright all at once, darkening is inevitable. If you don't like that, you can apply one tone first, and then brighten it up on top. But if that's too much hassle, you could suggest using a slightly more matte formula with just one product it's good to give them these options and explain them. So when the customer comes in, it's important to observe how they've done their makeup before. And that's why base makeup can be a bit tricky. And as for foundation, since the brush is for application, just make sure to adjust the angle properly and apply it well. Don't tap it in too much. If you tap too much, it can actually make dry patches stand out or make the finish even more matte. So once you've applied it, take a look. You see, the edges and the center haven't been covered yet. Just spread it out with this. If you go over each spot one by one like this, it takes a long time and your base can end up looking thicker. If the redness keeps showing up every time you tap with the puff, it means the foundation isn't adhering properly there. In that case, press down firmly on that area first. Instead of tapping like this, if you press down firmly, it kind of pushes the product out all at once. And if you touch the center too much, it'll spread out too much. Since you need coverage, you have to tap very gently, like you're patting a baby's bottom, and just softly blend out the edges. When you're working with brides, there will be people who have dermatitis, right? But you still have to make the skin look bright and covered, no matter what. In those cases, it's okay to just tap and layer the product on, because with bridal makeup, you don't let them touch the face anyway. There's really no reason for them to touch it. The makeup assistant will take care of any oiliness. So in those cases, you can let the client know that the makeup might not adhere perfectly. But as long as you don't touch your face, it'll stay like this. And if you really can't get enough coverage, there's one method you can try. You know those poor brushes that look like this, right? It's a foundation brush, so after applying something like MAC, you tap it in with that brush. But you absolutely have to test that on your own face first. If you tap with that, you need to check if it stings or not, because it can trigger seborrheic dermatitis. And if you cover blemishes and then tap the edges, it'll definitely come off again. At that point, use the pore brush to tap as well. What shade of ivory should I use? In that case, you need to use a foundation color that's a bit more stable. If you use something a bit too bright, like those pretty ivory shades, if you use it incorrectly, it can look cakey on that person. In those cases, if you use a yellowish color or even a pink one, it will definitely look unnatural. And then darkening happens. And for those people, the darkness just never gets covered up. Then, because of the lighting reflected in the mirror, all you hear is dark, dark, dark. But if you look at it like this, it's actually covered. Or at that point, I quickly move to a place without lighting. Or just turn off the lights. Or I tell them to turn around. I tell them to look away from the front light and turn around to check. Then everything's covered. So if you get caught up with a customer like this, you end up having to keep working on it until they're satisfied right in front of you. If you do that, there's no end to it. But honestly, once they leave, everything is already covered. Since we're going to apply a bit of shadow on the eyelids today, I'll make the base a little more solid. I'm using this powder right now. It's from Amelie. I'm mixing two colors together a little, skin tone and violet. But it doesn't really mean much, I just mix them as I go. When you do it, you can just use one. It's okay to apply powder, even under the aiguille. Since I applied the base very thinly at first, even if I layer more on top, it doesn't cake up and it gets absorbed as I do my makeup. So it's fine. For my eyebrows, I make them really matte to the point where the powder flies everywhere, all the way to the end. I mentioned this last time too. Don't curl them too much. In fact, for both the front and the back, keep them at a straight 90 degrees without any curl. If you really want to curl them, only do it in the middle. How does it look? Fill in the waterline, right? Check this first before moving on. Some people only draw the tail. That way, the eyelashes look really long. They come down. So for eyes that need the waterline filled in, it ends up looking too intense, which is why people only draw the tail. That's why the eyes keep looking strange. It might look heavy, but if you take a closer look, you might decide, oh, for this person, it's fine to just fill in the waterline without drawing the tail. If you give a bit more coaching, it's easier for people to recognize that you're a professional. And you can tell just by looking, this person only drew the tail. When you take a look, there are people who really shouldn't have their waterline filled in. So you know what I mean, right? You shouldn't fill in the waterline. And they say, yes, that's right. I shouldn't fill in my waterline. At that moment, they realize you're a professional. No matter what you do, they won't complain. They trust you. If the middle part or the front part of your eye falls in, then you don't have to fill in the waterline all the way there. You can just fill it in section by section. And when you use a pencil, make sure to rub it on the back of your hand from time to time. Also, for eyes where the entire waterline is visible, it's best to fill in the waterline densely all the way to the inner corner. But honestly, even if you tell clients about filling in the waterline, most of them don't really get it when you ask them to do it. There's nothing you can do about it. Only people who are interested will bother. Now, moving on to the eyes, guys. You don't have to use a beige base color just because it's called Mocha Mousse. It makes things look dull. And if you're like me and don't have much fat around your eyes, it can make them look really sunken. It makes you look older. If you look at Mocha Mousse products people bring for photos, usually only the outer corner and the lower lash line have brown. That's why, not just for Mocha Mousse, but also when I'm doing slightly bolder makeup, I always ask clients about the base color when they come in. I ask them what color they like, don't know. So then I ask what kind of lipstick they use. You give options, pink, coral, or orange. Otherwise, they get overwhelmed, because there are people who wear MLBB too. Some people have pigmented lips or use lip balm. So I ask, do you usually wear pink, orange, or coral? Then they'll say something calm. At that moment, I realize, oh, so you prefer something calm, not too vivid, just a nude or soft shade, right? And they'll say, oh, yes. That means they don't like bold colors in their makeup. If you can catch those things quickly, it really helps when you're doing makeup. What color do you like? Pink? But honestly, when you look at someone under the lights, if you check their vein color and lip color, if someone is a pink type, it's obvious to anyone. But there are people who aren't like that. And sometimes their clothes might be in beige tones. But if they say pink, you still need to use pink, even if it's not their tone. I think it's good to think of today as a chance to learn about that. If you're not sure about pink at first, you know these kinds of shades, right? Something like this, or a little bit like this. Just make sure it's not too white. If you accidentally add too much white, it can actually turn out looking pale. So choose a safe color as your base color, because even if you add a little bit of color later, if you mix in some brown in the middle, the color won't really show. But for this person, if I use pink as the first tone, they'll just recognize it as, oh, she used pink. It's already highlighting. This one is Wake Make by Palette, number 16. Sweep the base color widely, even covering the front part of the eyelid. For the base color, you just don't need to apply too much on the upper part of the back area here. I told you, right? I told you to feel the back hair it finishes quickly. You just need to apply it low only on the back. If you apply it high here, your eyes will suddenly look really swollen. For people with puffy eyes, lightly applying a soft, white, milky shade like this can make them look less swollen. Here too, I swept the brush all the way under the egg yolk. It's okay if you get this much on the brush. Don't worry. Just use it comfortably with a swipe. Next, I'm going to use Pinksy, these calm colors and the slightly more vivid ones. You can mix them together a little like this. Even the middle shades are fine. It's okay for monolids too. You don't have to be too afraid. If you suddenly feel like it's too pink and might look childish, just mix it a bit. This one is Holika Wisteria. Apply these roughly up to your crease as well. Don't try to shape it too much. As long as you control the pressure well, even if you just sweep it on, you'll get a nice gradient. It's good to think of giving this area a bit of a relaxed feel as well. Just a vibe. Now I'll draw the eyebrows. You have to keep checking the overall look and balance as you go. That way, the person receiving the makeup can also see how it's coming together. If you only do the eyes and then do the brows later, your focus on the eyes will already be gone. Even if you like the eyebrows, you might look at the eyes and think, huh? It can feel a bit like that. They might not say anything, but they still wait patiently. I'll draw the eyebrows using this shading product. You see, I don't even touch the front of the eyebrows. Do you know why I don't? Because there are hairs there. You start by filling in the empty spots first. The basis for this is, first of all, grooming your eyebrows well. That's something you have to keep working on, but if you keep them well groomed, it makes drawing your eyebrows much easier. Just give it a bit of shape for now, and then I'll use a pencil. I usually use the brightest color, Cool Ash, this one, and Rom and Han All Flat Bro C1, which is a bit darker. I use this to one that's the brightest and one with Colorso. The colors are extremely different from each other because with the brightest shade, I can touch up the areas where I applied shadow earlier if needed, and here it needs to come down a lot. The brow here is raised quite a bit, right? And then with this darker color, I just add some shading only where it's needed. Surprisingly, instead of drawing a lot on the top, most of it is actually underneath here. There's actually less hair here than you think. So after you draw it like this, it lifts up. You need to fill in even lower than you might expect. And when you brush through, you'll notice some hairs move really softly. In those cases, when you're drawing the hairs, don't fill in every gap right from the start. And first, brush it out. And since this part is high, you'll need to bring it down here. The hairs, after brushing, if you see any spots that look empty, just fill in those areas there. That works better. Next, we're going to apply false eyelashes. Let me give you a tip for applying false lashes. Don't use the eyelash curler too strongly. It's better to lift them with a heated curler. If you curl them too much, the lashes won't blend in. Or, if you attach them on top, they'll just get pushed upward. So if you're not sure, don't use the eyelash curler too strongly. It's actually better to apply mascara and then lift them with a heated curler. And you want your false lashes to be visible, right? Right now, these lashes are pretty thick. The texture of the hair is strong. In that case, you can attach them in between your natural lashes, but if that doesn't work well, just stick them on top. But the prerequisite for this is, if the model's waterline is visible, you must fill in the waterline first. But if you really press for time, then just apply the false lashes, ask them to open their eyes, and only fill in the visible waterline. It doesn't matter if you change the order. Sometimes a bit of stickiness can fall here. In that case, just gently nudge and place it on, and as the glue contracts, it will stick together. Everyone, and if you feel like the angle is off, just grab both the natural and the false lashes together and twist. That way, the angle will shift, because sometimes, after you've applied them, they might be sticking up like this. In that case, just grab them together and bend them like this. That's all you need to do before the glue dries. But if it still doesn't work, even after that, just reapply them. How does this look? If you're not careful, it can look unnatural. Think of it as attaching your natural lashes and the false lashes together. And don't apply too much product on top, otherwise they'll get heavy and droop. When I apply it with my hand, if it gets on top, I just let it get on my hand. That's actually better. If you want to wipe it off, but it doesn't come off, you know the eyeshadow you used earlier? Put some of that on a cotton swab like this. If you rub it with this eyeshadow, it'll come off. But sometimes it really won't come off, and you can't use remover in that case. It leaves a cloudy residue, right? And just ignore it and keep going. Once you apply shimmer later, it disappears. Trying to fix it is a much bigger hassle. If you try to erase and redo it, if it's only noticeable to you, just ignore it and move on. Just wait for the perfect angle you want. And if you're going to apply false eyelashes, it doesn't mean you should start exactly 1 millimeter in front of your pupil, but rather that the starting point should come to the front like this. That way, people with deep-set eyes won't feel uncomfortable. Now, I'm going to shape the eye line again. When shaping the eye line, what I'm going to use is a brown pencil, but if you don't have one, and you're in a hurry, you can use an eyebrow pencil instead. This is the Clio pencil, and this time I'll use it on the inner rim of the lower lash line, right at the front. But if your eyes are close set, then just don't do this step. For those who are concerned about having sanpaku eyes, just fill in under the pupil. If you're worried about having sanpaku eyes, and with this pencil liner, even though you definitely applied it to the waterline, it can look like nothing's there when you check your eyes. So after you've gone back and forth once or twice, could you look straight ahead for a moment? It's better to check like this. And then just use a light brown shadow to gently blend and soften it. Because rather than just having a harsh pencil line, it looks better with a bit of shading. Now, I'm going to use the point colors from Mocha Mousse. I've been using this palette a lot lately. I thought this brown wasn't as dark as I thought it would be, even if I just applied it. So I used this brown color, Holika number 12, as the middle color I just applied. It's only to that extent, so apply a little less. I can't really see the color. What does it mean? Because you might want to, still, that's the right way to do it. So for people with monolids, just lift it slightly and roughly apply it from the bottom up to the double eyelid line. What kind of effect do you think that will have? It tones down the pinkness a bit. Do you see how it folds in front of the double eyelid here compared to here? Then, with this color, you see this curve, right? This part needs to match your eye shape like this. Keep that in mind and add a little accent to the front, like this. Then, gently drag it to the back to give a subtle, natural accent. And now, I'll use this brown shade, the dark one. At this point, just pick up the color and think of brushing it on very lightly from the very bottom, as if you're just grazing it. That way, you can use even the dark brown without it feeling too heavy. How does this look? It goes up quite high, right? If you go up with just the amount you applied once and barely let any product touch the upper part, it won't look too intense. For this part too, gently wrap it around the front and keep the area a bit narrower. Apply it even more lightly, as if you're just dusting it on. Surprisingly, most regular customers feel uncomfortable if the shadow is applied over a wide area. So I'll stop around here and show you. Give me a little smile. Go ahead, smile. See here, from the corner of the mouth, can you see this? Here, here. Can you see this? This is where you apply the shimmer for the aerosol, and this is where the eye shape is defined, right? Just remember this. With this color, the double eyelid folds back here like this. For people whose eyelids droop, use a bullet brush lightly here. It gives a strong Mocha Mousse vibe. You can use the darkest brown, or just mix it with this one, like I did. Right here, see? Right here. Lift it up gently, softly blending as you go. Then, connect it to the lower and outer parts and blend it slightly outward. Instead of spending forever on the double eyelid line, it's better to just roughly do the lower part and really emphasize the outer corner. Because when people open their eyes, that's exactly what they see. Since the eyes are slightly lifted here, make this part a bit lower. You know, the base color we used earlier. You can use this one, or even a middle shade. It's fine to pick up some of this color. If you don't want to go back to the base color, it's okay to use this one instead. With your eyes open, remember how we applied the base color earlier, but when your eyes are open, you can't see the pink, right? If you want the pink to show a bit more, apply it like this, on top of your open eyelid, and also underneath. There are people who want to do a more soft and fluffy makeup look, you know? The key point then is the under eye area, absolutely. If you use pink pearl on the under eye, pink blush and pink lipstick, you get that soft, fluffy look, at least that's what people think. No matter how much you do on the upper lid, if you overdo it, it can make your eyes look swollen, so it's better to focus more on the under eye area. Just apply it roughly all the way down to the area below your aegyosal, and wrap it around the inner corner like this. Just because it's called Mocha Mousse, you don't have to go all brown, it's more of a glossy, shimmery pearl vibe. This one is Holika Berry Fig, and it's really pretty. But it's a bit beige tone, so I'll mix this one in a little first. Because if you suddenly use something too bright, it'll erase all the shading. Take a bit of that deep brown you used earlier and apply it just underneath. And the key point is, guys, the inner corner of your eye naturally goes upward like this. You shouldn't follow that line. If you do, the light will reflect off your eyes like this. Ignore that and go in a straight line instead. You added shading to the outer corner as well, right? Lightly blend it out and extend it straight back. That way, it makes it look like the outer part is part of your natural eye. Because what I've realized is, when clients say they want the Mocha Mousse look or want to look soft and plump, the reason I ask about lipstick colors and things like that is to understand their preferences. It's the same for brides as well. They all want to look pretty, but for lips, you have to use a red shade, otherwise it looks awkward. Then, a client comes in, their skin is done up really red, but their eyeliner is drawn sharply in black with a brush pen. For that person, the eyeliner is the main point. Even if they say they want to try the Mocha Mousse look, That style doesn't usually involve drawing bold eyeliner. So is there anything else you need at the end? Oh, then they say, the eyeliner, please. That's why you need to figure that out in advance. If the eyeliner is drawn on thick, then instead of spending a lot of time carefully blending the eyeshadow, it's better to keep it rough and focus on fixing the eyeliner. In that case, even if I get some corrections, I just say, I'll just fix the eyeliner a bit. And without commenting on the eyeliner, I've already roughly applied the eyeshadow like the Mocha Mousse look. Then they'll think, oh, this works on my eyes, and they'll end up buying the eyeshadow. The important thing is actually fixing the eyeliner. So it's kind of like a little trick of the eye. For things like this, I press it on gently. If you dust it off the wrong way, it just crumbles off on dry, flaky skin. For the eyeliner, I will use this reddish-brown pencil liner, which is perfect for a subtle yet defined look. This is the Clio pencil liner in black-brown. Earlier, I used black on the eyes, but for the wing, it's black-brown. If you use black all the way to the wing, for some people, it actually makes their eyes look longer. If the tip is blunt and hard to draw on their eyes, what do? Just pick up product and draw it on. Honestly, it's not easy with a pencil, really. And if this person has a lot of oil coming through, or their skin is dry, then it slips and gets erased. The more you rub, the more it comes off. You feel that, right? Or if it's dry, it won't go on smoothly. In that case, just quickly switch and use this to draw. If you're in a hurry, you can use this for the lower waterline, or you can pick up some product and fill in the waterline with it. But since this one fixes quickly, you need to brush it on a bit faster beforehand, because people with round eyes generally want them to look a bit longer. Next, you see this color here. The darker one, no matter how much you draw the line, there are spots where it doesn't go on well or where you want to add more thickness, right? Think of it as using this to fix those spots while also smudging the line. So you can extend the line even further, and at this point you can first define the area under here, add some points at the end, slightly open up the inner corner with the line, and give a bit of shading. If you're not careful with this, it can end up looking too intense. But the reason this works is because I've already applied false eyelash. If you haven't put them on, doing this can make it look too heavy, so you need to be a bit careful. Since I added a point to the inner corner, I'm applying a bit of shadow there as well. This can also cause the shadow to clump, so make sure to press it in. Then it really pops, and now you kind of get this vibe, right? That's all you need. Now, I'll just finish up the base again. This actually removes more of the base than you'd expect if you apply it all over. So when you're applying foundation, you can mix it like this and apply it together. For people with dry skin, apply the Radiance Balm to the brush. Since this won't come off even if you work all day, use one for people with dry skin. Just a light touch with this and that. This is the same concealer, number 2. Mix it lightly with the foundation you used earlier. Since you've applied the balm, it'll be less matte. If you spray mist incorrectly on the sponge, it can actually remove your makeup. Especially for people with dermatitis, it will strip it right off. You have to be careful. Focus on the center. For people with oily skin, the center is important, but the outer areas matter even more. The outer edges, especially along the hairline, come off more easily than you think. If that happens, your face can look dull. Don't apply too much at this stage. You mix in concealer, right? Or if you're using a cushion, you can use a little bit of concealer. Or if the cushion itself has good coverage, then after picking up the cushion once, press it firmly and apply. Let's do it again with the brightest color. If you're gonna do it, just the dark side. This was okay on top of the Radiance Night at that time. Cereal. But if you use this incorrectly, it can be a bit sticky. And some people find that if they apply this at the beginning of a series, it gets cakey later on when their oiliness increases. Take a little bit from the back, just a tiny bit on the brush, and mix it with concealer. Make it smooth. When you mix this and go back and forth like this, you can get oil marks here. That means the base might come off when you apply. Just be a little careful about that. Thinly. Cover the area between your brows well, and for the dark areas around your mouth, like I mentioned, I'll tap it with this once. That way, the glow is maintained. And even without a sponge, it adheres well. And for people with inflamed acne or those with bumps, like I said about stick concealer, draw firmly with the same, then press it in with this. If you use a sponge or cushion puff, it will definitely come off. But if you press it in with this, it doesn't come off. So it doesn't lose its adherence. Foundation and concealer themselves have volatile properties, so they set on their own. If you're unsure, you can just lightly go over it with powder. It's primarily because the bristle cuts are all quite different and varied. Now I'll move on to powder. For powder, I'm using Amelie 01 Natural Beige color. And press down on your forehead where your brow bone is. I haven't done the center yet. That's because the center is a bit reddish. If you want to cover this, you can. I could just apply more, but I'm planning to do blush, that's why. I'm about to do blush, but if I apply more first, I think it might cake up, so I'm checking as I go. Honestly, you guys, cool tone contouring doesn't really matter that much. Contour shades are usually yellowish or reddish, but if your skin is dark, then having a bit of redness is normal. If your skin has a bit of a yellow undertone, but is really fair-like, obviously pale and pink then, it's fine to use a little cool-toned contour, especially if you want to apply a lot. In that case, you can first apply cool-tone contour broadly, and then just use a reddish or yellowish contour for the outline. For defining the contours, yellow or red undertones are the best. But what's the key point? Only up to the point where it could be visible at a glance. At that moment, you need to quickly check the hairstyle the client came in with. If their hair's pulled back tightly, then you shouldn't apply the contour too heavily because everything would be visible. But if they usually cover it like this, then you can use red tones too. Because for that person, as long as the contour is visible on the face under the hair, they'll think, oh, the shading looks good. And then the key point is to always tap along this boundary once. Before doing nose contouring, lightly press with powder once more. The skin is a bit oily. In that case, oil will come up on the nose and it will definitely look messy later. So you shouldn't apply too much contour, which means you need to choose the right color, whether to use a yellow tone contour or red tone contour. Because if you apply too much powder, it will cake up later with the oiliness. So with a slightly reddish tone, start right here underneath and gently wrap around the nostrils. You can see the shadow here, right? Can you see it here? People who haven't had nose surgery all have this here. If you haven't had osteotomy, so the moment you go all the way there, this area suddenly gets dark. Just do the very end. And if you feel like you need to do the nose, do it here. And the key point is to use the brush once right here in the hollow. Then the pink or any haziness you applied will settle down really nicely. I want a bit more shading underneath here, so I'll just lightly apply this color once more. Because, you know, this Holica Wisteria color you see on screen, it's important that it shows up on camera so you can understand what I'm doing. Just because it's called Mocha Mousse doesn't mean it has to be all brown. It doesn't have to be that color. I'll just slightly cover the blemishes. Please apply this one, because it's more effective to blend it out after it sets a little. Gently with this, like this. For blush, you can now use the pink shade the client wants here. You can use brown, but if you do, it suddenly gives off a strong Mocha Mousse vibe, and the client might feel like, hey, I can't see the pink I like. That can happen. This one seemed to be a bit of a cream type, just a little. This is the 3CE Blusher Slick. You see some redness, right? Just a little. In this case, don't go too heavy. It's okay to use a soft, milky color, because you're actually using that redness as a kind of blush. And then you see this beige brown color here. Just use it lightly around the edges. Leave the pink in the center. This is the naming blusher in bagel color. For the blusher, just tap the edges once. Before applying lipstick, I'll put some shimmer on the eyelids. Ah, isn't this pretty? But it dries too quickly. I think this is 3CE double note. Just dab it here and there, then quickly blend with your finger. Try opening your eyes. How does it look when you open them like this? Even people with puffy looking eyes can use this. Skip the brown and apply it under the brown shade. When removing excess shimmer, use a spoolie brush. When it comes to lips, honestly the formula matters, but your lower face structure plays a big role too. Some people need to use a velvet formula, some need a flip formula, and some need something moisturizing. It's all different for everyone. So it's best to choose what suits you. I'm going to mix this one with a bit of brown. This is WMO, Wake Make Shade 3, Knotted, and Shade 1 Hummer. What I'm going to do with this is just outline the edges. And then the pink color, if you feel like the color payoff isn't strong enough, it's best to apply it all over. Just on the inside, use this beige brown shade and lightly dust it along the outer edges again. And if you want to create a gradient lip, don't blend it out too much. At this point, the makeup is pretty much done. Now, add a touch of a bright lavender color at the very end. And if you want to use hints, then apply it with a makeup sponge. Dab it on and layer it once more on top because, you know, some people have dryness under their eyes. But don't bring it down below that area. If you have oily skin, this area will come up later anyway. You can also apply a little on your cupid's bow and on your eyelids here. With this, the makeup is finished. And as people get older, their skin loses elasticity. So regardless of how much moisture they use, sometimes color just doesn't show up. There's nothing you can do about it. For those people, you can accentuate the eyes with the eyelashes or add a hint of pink or any color you like to the lower lash line. But as you age, your eyes tend to droop. If you make the lower lash line too strong, your eyes will really look heavy and stuffy. The look of the eyes is a bit different, but for people with dark circles, first apply a thin layer of foundation. And if you see the darkness showing through, immediately mix a stick concealer or a cream type concealer, so you make it thicker. Just mix them together to add some thickness, and don't spread it out too thinly. Press it in Aziz to give it some thickness. And then what do you need to do? Since it gets creamy, slather on the eye primer, then press it down firmly with powder. After that, for the first base color, if you're gonna use something like pink, use a milky shade like that. Then it will look milky, and then for the middle color, you use a shade like this. Keep using a shade that's a bit milkier than what you think of as a middle color. But the moment you add a brown like the one we used at the end, the darkening effect comes right back up. You have to be a bit careful at that point. In that case, you can just lightly smudge the shadow along the line with that brown, or use a really small brush to add just a touch of brown, as if you're drawing a line just a millimeter or so. It's all about controlling the area. You need to narrow the width. If you're not sure, just make it narrower, everyone just a little bit at a time. That's better. I'm just gonna start now.